Welcome to this session on blogs and wikis, and we'll talk about how they can be incorporated into Blackboard, but we'll also be looking at ways that they can be used independently. So as an overview, we're going to just define what wikis and blogs are, talk about how they can be used in a course, talk about how to create wikis and blogs, and then look at some of the assessment, promising practices, possible ways that you could increase student interaction in a course. And this workshop would be both for people who are looking to teach fully online, as well as for people who are just looking to add a blog or a wiki to a face-to-face course. So let's start with talking about what blogs and wikis are. In terms of a definition, Webster provides a definition for a blog that it's somewhat of an online personal journal. There's reflections, comments, and in this definition they talk about often there are hyperlinks provided by the writer that take you to other sites. In several definitions that I looked at, they say that a blog must contain hyperlinks. I don't really see that as being an absolute requirement of. It is possible that someone could require that when students post that they also include a hyperlink to some other external website. So just to quickly show an example. And we do have food today, so please help yourself to food and help yourself to more food when you're finished with the food you have. So here's an example of a blog. This is from retired Professor Larry Cuban, who frequently blogs about either school reform or technology issues, and so this is just a place for him to share his ideas on current topics in education. And so just so you can see a format of a blog, blogs are typically in reverse chronological order. So as something new is shared, as a new reflection is shared, it's shared at the top with some kind of a date stamp. This would be considered a post. And then as you move down his blog posts, he's writing short essays, but lots of blogs you'll see are just several paragraphs. But then you see another one. He's not blogging every day, but he's a consistent blogger. So if you either subscribe to his blog or just go to the URL frequently, you can count on pretty much every 2 or 3 days that he's going to have an idea about something else that he's sharing about. At the bottom of a blog, typically you'll see some way that it's categorized, and depending on the blogging tool, it may have categories. So in this case, he has a category called school reform policies, but many blogs just use a tagging feature, and in that way people are deciding what the important terms are. And so in this case he has a term, policy to practice, school reform, and so he's identifying those. Those work both for search engines. So his blog, those key terms, they help find his blog easier, as well as they help him if he decides later he wants to go back and look at everything that he's written about that deals with policy to practice. He can just click on that tag link, and if he's tagged something with that, we're seeing now everything that's been tagged with that link. Okay. You'll also notice at the bottom he has 3 comments. So while blogs are reflective in nature, there could be a requirement that you have for students that they also comment on other students' blogs. This wouldn't be in the same way that they would comment or interact in a discussion board. These are more or less, somebody's sharing a short essay, several paragraphs with an idea, and someone else is giving them feedback on the idea. So if I clicked on this 3 comments, we would see where people are leaving comments for him, and he may actually be commenting back in some cases. Okay, I didn't preview these, so they may have very little do, nor have I read that particular blog post, so I'm not saying how closely those tie into what he's written, or this isn't for any class he's teaching, so there wouldn't be any expectation there. But you as an instructor could tell your students that they should comment on someone else's blog post. One of the ideas that was shared to me by another professor was they look to group students, and so students who are coming from similar disciplines or have similar interests, they have them be blogging buddies or blogging partners and work in small groups to where they give each other feedback on their blogs. And so that's something that you can regularly see if you look at the blogs that are posted. So that gives you an idea of what a blog is, and so to contrast that with a wiki. Wikis, according to Webster again, are a website that allow visitors to make changes, contributions, or corrections. And I would change, if I was going to write that definition, I wouldn't say visitors, I would say participants. I would say that you could, when you set up a wiki, you can make it so that only people that are subscribing to it, and you can decide whether they have viewing privileges or they have editing privileges. So it just doesn't, when you set up a wiki, you're just not allowing anyone to make changes to it. There's a community element there, and unless we're talking about Wikipedia, where they pretty much allow anyone to edit any article, there's some exceptions to that, but otherwise most wikis define some kind of community that have editing privileges. So when we're talking about a class of students, you may be dividing students up into teams. And so while a team, anyone on the team could edit the wiki, maybe you're allowing anyone else in the class to view the wiki. And that would obviously depend on what the project was, whether or not they're doing the same assignment or similar assignments. And if we were going to look at a good example of a wiki that's out on the internet, one that we'd look at would be Educational Origami, which does a great job of keeping people up to date on some of the things that are happening with education. It's more than just a technology blog, but a lot of the pedagogy that they talk about is related to technology implementation. But if you would go to this particular blog, you would find that they frequently update the content of the blog. The blog, instead of like a wiki where it's written in a post format where each new entry goes to the top, a wiki is a website. And so if we look over here in this particular case on the left, each of these links is a new web page. So if we want to look at Bloom's taxonomy and digital taxonomy in terms of evaluating, we would go to that page in the website and see the content that's on that web page. And someone who is a member of this community, someone who has been accepted as an editor, would have the ability to come to this page and make changes. Up at the top of this, you see that it says that it's protected. And so I would have to specifically request that on this particular wiki, you can choose to join it. And then joining, along with joining, depending on the wiki, would give you access to make edits if that's possible. You'll also notice if I go back to the home page on this, that there is also a discussion component. So what we saw in the wiki, or excuse me, what we saw in the blog was more of a commenting feature. On a wiki, there may be a discussion element or a commenting feature, and usually what that's in regards to is the content of the wiki. I mean, somebody, if we're talking about Wikipedia, somebody is arguing about why a certain topic should be included on the article for that page, or why one that's there should not be there. And so there's a discussion taking place around that particular page. So if we go to any page in this particular one, so if I go to the Bloom's Digital Taxonomy page, looks like there's 4 discussions taking place about this particular page. Okay, so again, the key difference between the blogs and the wikis is with the blog we're primarily looking at posts where somebody is writing a reflection and they're sharing those as separate pieces of content, like we're seeing here with Larry Cuban. A blog could have multiple editors as well, but you would have, each time someone would contribute, they would be adding a new post. And there would rarely be a case of where someone would come in, and if multiple people were working in the same blog, where they would come in and edit another person's post. They would just post maybe their ideas as a response in a new post to that particular blog. The question is, would I say the difference is between the way the two are organized? And yeah, that is that's a primary difference between the two. Is one is really organized as a series of separate reflections, where the other is organized as web pages where anyone can modify, anyone who's a member can modify any of the content. So we would see in a blog typically one person's voice in each post if there were multiple members of the blog, where in the wiki we might not be able to know whose voice it is because people are editing other people's work. So each is a separate page. And so we can, when we're looking at wikis and blogs, we can look at them. Both of those examples that I showed were external to Blackboard. You could use either of those tools. One was WordPress, the other was Wiki Spaces. I'll talk about those in a minute. But you could use those with your students. And so the decision you might be looking at would be whether or not you want the content to be open or not. Maybe you want it to be available to people outside of your course. You want your students to interact with people outside of just the classroom. Maybe there are professionals you want them to interact with. So in terms of the two, here's some more ways that possibly they are different. You could use a blog to help someone understand a concept, and so you could give them a prompt saying, what's clear and what's unclear about this particular concept in our course. And they could then each write a blog post where they reflect on what they believe is clear or unclear about that. There could be some kind of a personal reflection on a topic. So let's say that there's some kind of ethical issue presented, and they're defining how they would actually solve maybe a problem that was presented to them in a single post, each student in the class. So there could be a blog where each student shares a post separately. And with the blogging tool within Blackboard, you can choose to make posts private or public. And so you have this ability to let students share posts that everyone sees, or only you as the instructor see. And there's obviously examples of when you would do either of those, depending on the topic. you might actually have a project where there's a group reflection as a blog post. So maybe students have gotten together and you've told them, I want you to all write one reflection on the, summarizing your project. How did it work out? What worked well, what didn't work well when you worked on this project together. And it's a group reflection. Okay? But you also may say, I want to know individually from each of you in a private blog, I want you to share what worked and what didn't work in this group project. And in that way, you may be finding out, okay, well, it looks like one of the people in this group wasn't a slacker. When I see everyone's individual reflections, everyone seems to remember that, or everybody seems to be reflecting that the project went well, except this person was always late, or this person never contributed. And so you can get a sense of what actually went on behind the scenes that you may not get in another way. And then you can just have them post a reaction. It's very easy to post a YouTube in a blog and just put a video up and have them respond to the video. And in that way, you might have the post and everyone might be making comments about the post that's being made. Okay? When we switch to the wiki side, we're primarily looking at a group project. Blogging can be an individual activity. Wiki can be an individual activity, but by the definition of a wiki, we're really looking at group work. And so maybe there is some kind of a project notebook that they're putting together. These students are working together. They're putting together a summary of everything that was done in the project. And so there's possibly process steps that they're including, but all of what we would call the deliverables. So maybe there was a paper involved, maybe there was a presentation that was involved, maybe they had to agree on a contract that they had with each other on how they were going to work together. And all of those things could be pages in the wiki, this website that's actually being shared. Okay? There's a possibility that you would have some kind of an online bibliography. Maybe everyone is working on the same type of project and you're sharing resources. So the assignment is the same for everyone in the class, but maybe you've decided, well, let's make sure we all have a common list of resources that we're working from to write our papers. And so the wiki, the whole function of the wiki is to have this shared space where as soon as somebody finds a bibliography, they, or excuse me, an article, they post the information for it into the bibliography that everyone else has access to. Okay? And in that way, it is a shared resource on a common project topic, which is another example listed here. And there might just be some kind of an introduction wiki. Maybe you give everyone in the class a page where they put their content. And so it's really more of a tool for social presence where everybody in the class can share, okay, this is who I am, here's a picture of me, here's what my interests are, here's examples of work that I'm doing in this class. That would be a single wiki that you could make where everyone in the class participates. Okay? So those are some general ideas. Do you have any examples yourselves of things that you've seen people do that you like? Examples of wikis or blogs used in classroom activities? The question is, could it be used with a study group? And I think it could be. I think one of the challenges that you find with students is they tend to focus on activities that end up impacting their grade. And so I think if you had a group of students maybe that were in a cohort model and they could see clear benefit from, okay, in our study group we're working on, let's say you have comp questions or questions at the end of the, that at the beginning of the course, these questions will be asked in an essay format in the final. That maybe, throughout the term, they work on those 5 questions together. I think it could work in that way. If it was more of, I'm just thinking about a question I had on the reading today, that might actually probably work better in a discussion, online discussion forum, where you're actually maybe, have an expectation that they participate in an online discussion and that they answer other students' questions in that format. And I can just give an example. When I first started experimenting with wikis, I thought it would just be good if students, I didn't really have any clear plan in my syllabus because I had learned about the idea of wikis after the course had already started, but I wanted them to see what they were and experience them, and so I just threw in an assignment that was, I think I might have given extra credit points, but I wanted us to create like a dictionary of key terms for the course, and it failed miserably because they didn't see how, how was it, there wasn't in this particular course, the assessments were all project or paper types of assessments. There were no final exams. So to have this dictionary of important terms, while it might have been useful, they spent their time focused on the things that were going to get assessed in the course. And so I had maybe 3 people write in it, and that quickly led me to believe that wasn't but if I think it's important, I need to tie it to the assessment so that they see where the value is.